Today's video, what is the role of acting theory and the teacher in training the next generation? Hello, my theater kids, and welcome back to another video for Theater 5363 Acting Theory in America. My name is Heather, and this week we're going to be talking about the role of acting theory and teaching in training the next generation. But before we get started, let's get our source on. Our source, as usual, is going to be Method Acting Reconsidered, which is edited by David Krasner. I'm going to have a link down in the description if you would like to see the book for yourself. But if you're ready, curtain up and let's get started. So we start with Stanislavski. He was the inspiration for every acting theory that we have right now, even if we don't follow what he originally said to the letter. Now, the author here, Beck, shows us that there are, in essence, three Stanislavskis. We have the version of Stanislavski that started in Russia with the Moscow Art Theater. We have the system that Stanislavski used when he was touring America, bringing these ideas to this new generation of American actors. And then we have the third version of Stanislavski that kind of grew from the dual consciousness of the actor, kind of like we talked about last week with there being a paradox in acting. So this is why there's this varying opinion on whether the system works, because it depends on which one of those three versions of Stanislavski that you were originally introduced to. So according to Beck, the real paradox of acting is to perform without looking like you're performing. There's this blurry line between actor and character. So you have to ask, can an actor portray anger without being angry? Can you portray sadness without making yourself actually sad? Stanislavski would say that the idea of emotional truth comes from finding a deeper honesty within yourself. The actor has to coexist with the character so that you're bringing truth to both experiences. And there's always this shift back and forth between what's going on with the character and your own personal experience. Stanislavski was the first to suggest that the actor is an integral part of theatrical artwork and not just its transmitter. I really loved that quote, that you have to be the art. You are not just a way for the art to get through. But he also warned that the minute you lose yourself in a role, that's when things start becoming more fake. You are becoming the character and not yourself as the character. Actors have to live this paradox anytime they go on stage. In a sense, Beck says that you co-author a character along with the playwright. I've had this experience before. There's been times when I've done a show and the director has told me afterwards, I really didn't know what to do with this character until you came and gave your own take on it. So in a sense, I was co-creating that role along with what was written by the original playwright. And then Beck goes on to give a lot of examples of playwrights and directors that encourage an actor to not just play the role, but to play with the role. There's a big difference. You don't just take what is given to you, but you experiment with it. You add your own flavor to a character. So this was another aha moment for me here. This addresses the duality of the actor. You have to be yourself and you have to be the character at the same time. And you kind of re-emerge each one of those at different times in full view of the audience. So some directors say this happens in sequence, you go back and forth. Some say it happens at the same time. You are yourself and the character at the same time. So it just depends on what it is you're trying to get across. Beck goes on to give a lot of examples of the paradox in play throughout several theater companies and their philosophies and their personal takes and approaches to Stanislavski. And he draws our attention to the fact that the biggest gulf between Stanislavski and American theater happened because of the revolution that formed the Soviet Union, and that kind of cut off a lot of experimentation in the world of theater, whereas at the exact same time in America, we were starting to experiment with themes of ethnicity, feminism, queer, post-colonial themes. The Soviet theater did not have those opportunities at the same time. So this was kind of a split in America between more Brechtian ideas, things that are a little more abstract, and things that are more Stanislavski, which was a big push towards realism. Stanislavski, Meisner, and Adler created three types of awareness within the actor. The first is engaging the actor as themselves. The second means you have to deal with the character's behavior rather than your own feelings. And then the third looks at the relationship between those two, and you have to connect them with impulse and expression. Beck goes on to point out that Strasberg's method reformulates the magic if by asking, what would motivate me as the actor to behave the way the character does? So there's a paradox there within the method that actors have to ground themselves in self, but you also have to become the character. So that's just an overall view of what Beck was writing. And now let's dive into a little bit more of how I felt about the reading. So I'm going to be honest, I really struggled with this reading. I was trying to track the author from thought to thought. I liked seeing the examples from directors and theater companies, but it was not very well explained the overall point that the author was trying to make. It was hard to follow from one thought to the next. Everything just kind of blurred together. It seemed to jump back and forth. So I wasn't a huge fan of the writing style on this one. That being said, I did like how the author fused all of the various theories that we've talked about in this class and seeing how everything stemmed really from Stanislavski before evolving and becoming something new. That was our starting point for our modern method of acting with Stanislavski. I'd never really thought a whole lot about the evolution of acting as a result of political changes between the East and the West. It kind of makes sense now that I really sit down and think about it. It's hard to evolve and create in a political climate that doesn't allow it. The paradoxes that he kept referring to throughout the text, it was really interesting to think about. When you are on stage, you really do have two people inside of you all the time. And the audience gets to see you and the character disappear and reemerge and kind of fuse into each other. And it's just the fact that an audience gets to see that. I can think of times when I have watched someone on stage and I have felt just so very grateful to be in the audience for that performance, just because I knew that I was witnessing something beautiful going on stage and within that actor, and just kind of just feeling blessed to be there, really. So that's really what you want as an actor, is for people to feel that they have witnessed something good. And so that comes back to where we are as teachers. What do we need to get through to teach the next generation? We have talked about so many different acting theories in this class, where they overlap, where they veer away from each other. And the overall theme from this class has just been take what works for you. Do we have to use the system? No. Do we need to use a system? It's very likely yes. You will need to have some sort of system in place, mentally, on paper, something like that, so that you can track the development of a character. Because even if you've been acting for a really long time, characters don't just happen. You do have to put some thought into it. Do you need to use magic if? Do you need to use creative imagination? Do you need to rely on past experiences? Do you need to drop experience and just move from moment to moment? You need to have some kind of idea of where you're going to go as an actor. And as an educator, it's your job to help lead actors through those various methods so they can figure out what it is that's going to work for them. You get locked into a way that works for you and think that may be the only way that works. And there are so many theories and methods and systems and techniques out there that we're really doing students a disservice if we only teach them one way to do it. And just remembering that it all started with Stanislavski, who said, I don't need to be a copy of another actor. I need to think about what's going to make things real, and how every other technique and method and system, everything built off of that one idea of don't copy what's going to make this real, what's going to make it truthful. And so I believe that is my big takeaway from all of this. The only way that I can keep theater going through the ages is helping younger and newer actors understand that there are ways to get from A to B to C. So anything that I can do in order to help them get their mind around that, because everybody's going to think and work in different ways, and anything I can do to help them work their way through that, then that's going to help acting continue throughout the ages. So there you go. Those are just my thoughts about this reading for this week. And that's also the end of this series. I hope that you found this informative and helpful. Why don't you let me know about it in the comments below? I hope that you've enjoyed this series, and I hope to see you on stage someday. And scene.